So the city of Megiddo sits on a hill and it overlooks a wide plain. Actually, I should say the ruins of the city are on that hill. And by ruins, I mean the ruins of the ruins of the ruins of the ruins of the ruins that are on that hill. The most important thing about real estate is location. And this city was built where it was because, if you can see it clearly or not, it was a good location. It was built where you could put a fortress on that would protect the entire plain and all the region around it. But putting a fortress there means simply that it's going to be attacked sooner or later. The first fortress there was built so long ago that even the Bible cannot tell you when it began. But the city gets mentioned in the Bible, the city of Megiddo, mostly because at one point this nation of ancient Israel attacked the city and destroyed it and rebuilt it. And the great King Solomon used it for a fortress, and he put his great big cavalry there because he had a whole flat plain to defend, and it was a good place for chariots. Because any army that moved through the land would have to go right across that big plain there, and you could defend the people from that fortress at Megiddo. And it worked great for a while anyhow, but sure enough, the city that they had taken and destroyed was eventually taken from them and destroyed. And the people that took it from ancient Israel eventually had it taken from them, and someone else had it taken from them. Over 25 times this city was attacked, torn down, and rebuilt. There was another great king of Israel, King Jehu, who defended this city. He died defending it from the great Pharaoh Necho. That's Necho with one C, not two C's. He was an emperor, not a wafer. Anyhow, the plain where the battle took place had another name. Israel is, this valley is also known as the valley near Megiddo, and you would pronounce that in Hebrew, Har-Megiddo, also known as Armageddon. So how many of you have heard of Armageddon? You've heard of it. What do you know about it? And don't worry if you don't know much, because nobody does. What do you know about Armageddon? What does it mean? What do you know about it? The last great war, okay? What else? Anybody know anything other than that? We use it in that way. We use the word Armageddon to talk about a complete defeat, a complete destruction. We even use it in silly ways like Snowmageddon. Remember Snowmageddon, when it's going to bring about the end of the world because we're going to have so much snow? The Battle of Armageddon gets a lot of play in religious circles, but it only gets one very short sentence in the Bible. This one right here. Then the evil spirits brought the kings together in the place that in Hebrew is called Armageddon. Out of that one sentence, a great deal has been made. When I was there were no armies gathered. The plain was covered with farms and agriculture. It was a peaceful place. However, the idea of this last great battle has some merit, spiritually, if not historically. There are several places in the Bible where it is predicted that there will be a great last battle. It will be between the forces of good and evil, and the evil will finally be stopped. An example from the book of Zechariah, the 12th chapter. I think I have that here, yes. On that day I will make Jerusalem a heavy stone for all the peoples. All who lift it shall grievously hurt themselves, and all the nations of the world shall come together against it, against Jerusalem, to attack it. So that's what this is all about. All this talk about Armageddon from the Bible all comes from that one sentence where it talks about this great conflict. But that's where it ends. Where does it start? Well, the story starts with this idea that the world that God has created is a place of harmony. God created a world that is to live in harmony, but that harmony has become broken. Who today would deny that we have some serious problems with the world as a harmonious place? And much of the story of the Bible is about God's desire to restore harmony. You could say it's the whole theme of the Bible. Why have we not got harmony in the world today? The answer is simple. because some people are standing against it. There are people standing in the way of harmony, resisting what God is trying to do. They are oppressing others, destroying things, over-consuming, putting religion above faith, violent and filled with hate, and all of that stuff is getting in the way of harmony. There cannot be harmony when there are people who are working against it. Here's an example. Let's see if this comes.
What did they do on the rainy night in Rio? A rinky-pinky-pink, what did they do when there is no starry sky? Oh, starry sky, where do they go when they can't go for a walk? Do they stay home and talk, or do they sit inside? What did they do in Rio? How tender can you get?
What do they do in Mississippi when skies are drippy?
And what do they do in Tijuana when they want to snuggle tight? Well, music hater.
And that's what happens when you don't have harmony. When we're singing too many songs and trying to oversing each other and conflict with each other. If God's harmony is being denied by evil people, then those people must be eliminated. This is the conclusion that many in the scriptures come to. Things cannot go on the way that they are. Something has to happen to end things. The evildoers must be stopped. And so we have a war against evil. There are some who cannot see any way for things to change in this world unless we have a war of some kind. Things have gone so wrong and people have gotten so polluted that they are going to have to be eliminated. And maybe the writer of Revelation was one of these people. The world has gone bad. God desires to return it to its intended harmony. Those who break the harmony have to be stopped. Maybe it will even take a full-scale war before it all ends. This weekend we note the birthday of a great American, Dr. King, who was one who believed absolutely that for evil to be stopped, a struggle must take place. He believed that there was no way that things were going to change in this world unless good people stood up and faced down the oppression of evil people. The genius of Dr. King was that he recognized that some ways of opposition would change him into another one of the evil people. The change that he knew had to happen because of the suffering of so many people, that change had to happen only through the power of love. He did not want to kill his enemies. He wanted to transform his enemies. So the Bible teaches us that it is God's intention for the world to be made right, to live in harmony. And many of the great spiritual giants of the past have seen the resistance of some to God that would not come to an end without a great cataclysm, without an Armageddon. And that might be true. Maybe that's true. But that Armageddon does not need to be one of armies clashing on a distant plain. It could be a conflict of love. What if there was a war of love? What if we became as fully committed to loving and caring for our enemies as we are to killing them? What if we decided that we were not going to fight or hate the Muslims in our world, but we were going to protect and serve them? Look, even when I wrote that sentence at home, I could feel how crazy people would think that felt when I said, perhaps we should protect and serve the Muslims in the world. But what if we decided to make a great final conflict a war of love instead of hate? I know it's naive. I know it's hopeless. I know. Except that it's the only thing that I've ever seen that really does work. Well, enough of that, because I want to talk about something else. I want to talk about the fact that there is a spiritual truth here in our own lives. Instead of looking at the world around us, let's take a look at our own lives. What about the disharmony in our own lives? How many of you sit here today and can identify a place where the music in your soul is out of whack with itself? What about that disharmony? Is it not God's desire for us to be at harmony within our souls? So maybe there cannot be a harmony within until there is a spiritual Armageddon as well. So much can be in the way of our personal harmony. Our fears keep us from it. We snarl and snap at others like frightened dogs. Our failures keep us from the harmony. They lay there in the back of our souls and trouble us at night, unforgiven like unburied corpses. Our desires keep us from that harmony. We bow down to golden calves of all kinds, often, in fact, the gold. And because we do not have all we think we should have, we are without harmony. And our self-centeredness stands in our way, because deep down we believe that we are really not worth quite so much, so we pretend to just the opposite, and we demand the worship and honor of others. We set ourselves up as the gods of our own world, and because there can only be one God, it is a disharmony that we cannot eliminate. And perhaps that's why there has to be a great final battle. People do come to the point of Armageddon in their lives. Maybe you've already been there. When you admit that you are addicted and need help and begin the great battle of your life to become sober. When that relationship in your life is finally destroyed and that family falls apart and someone walks out and slams the door behind them forever. When the doctor says that your body cannot be repaired or even that your life cannot be spared. Or simply the realization that you have been a selfish, ignorant hater all your life and you are sick of it. Sick of the fear and the hatred and the consuming selfishness. Whatever it is, the final battle in your own personal life is unleashed. You come to your own Armageddon. It could be the best thing to happen to you. It could be God's will for you, but it will not be pleasant. It will be war. But it will be a war of love, because God is not your enemy. Who is our enemy? We are our own enemies. The war might set us free because it is not a war of hate, but a war of love. It is not that God hates us, but it is that love is the nature of God, and God desires to create harmony. And this war that we are in is not against an enemy, but the ally with us is God who loves us. That great spiritual battle has already been waged. It was God's own self that was sacrificed in that battle. The death of Jesus Christ was an example of the way that we humans have treated each other with fear and cruelty, yet it was Christ who said from the cross, "Forgive them." The cross was the great spiritual battle, the true Armageddon. And believing that, you might find that the battle that you wage in your own life has turned in your favor, because the cross is where the evil of the world or of your life has been put to death and destroyed. So today I simply say, accept what God has done through Christ and be transformed. Let an Armageddon be waged in your soul, a final great battle, and let it put the sin to rest, and embrace the cross, the sign of love that God creates and infuses into the world and into our lives. Armageddon, are you ready to have it? Come to us, Lord Jesus. Bring us to the final end, we pray. Amen.
You've been listening to a sermon by Reverend Stephen Carnahan, pastor of High Street Congregational Church in Auburn, Maine. If you feel inspired by what you hear, we invite you to join us in person for worship services every Sunday morning, beginning at 10 o'clock. Of course, you can always listen to Steve's sermons on the web. New sermons are posted every Monday by midday. Please take a moment to explore this website for more information about our church, or visit our Facebook page at High Street Congregational Church, UCC. We hope that God's presence will be known to you every hour of every day, and that God's blessings will rest upon you now and always. See you next week.